can get going. Thanks everyone for being here. I'd like to thank RK Stewart and John Sparano for being here to put on this presentation for everyone, and I'll turn it over to you guys.
Well, thanks. Welcome, everybody. So John and I are members of the components Honors and Awards Committee with our able-bodied chair, Daniel, here. It's over the last year or so as we've been looking at things we could do this year to kind of help bolster the membership. We thought it might be a good idea to have a little chat about what it takes, how to go about winning design awards. John and I have both been veterans of many submittals. Some of them successful, not always, but we've also had the pleasure or the risks of serving on a lot of awards juries over the years, both at the local, state, and national level, and awards programs outside of the FAIA umbrella as well. But there's a lot of commonalities that we've seen over the years in these processes, and we thought we'd just have kind of an informal chat today about some of the things that we've seen that might aid you in your future efforts to seek recognition for the work that your firm's doing.
Yeah, and I think we'll start in a sec here with RK and I talked about wanting to talk about myths, because there are a lot of myths around the awards programs in general and what they are and what our opinions are of those myths. But before we get to even that, I wanted to just really briefly touch on something that is not really the focus of this session, but I think it's the 500-pound gorilla in the room, and that is just design. And we all have our own definition of what good design is, and I think it's important that if you're going to enter this, if you're going to enter a design award, you have to at least believe that you're doing something really excellent, and that means, as far as I'm concerned, it means that you put an emphasis on design, and you don't ever find yourself at the end of a design phase saying things like, "Oh, that's good enough, let's move forward," because it's probably not. And so I think it's important that you just put an emphasis on design, and you will eventually get there. But if you're not putting an emphasis on it, putting other things ahead of design, then you probably won't get there. Because I think the important point to take away from this session is that even if you do all the things we talk about, if you're not working with great design, if the design isn't good, then this isn't going to make up for it. What we're going to talk about today is you have something really good that you've put an emphasis on, you've really put a lot of effort into. Then if you're doing these things that we're talking about, then you have a good chance of winning a design award, because you can't fake it. It's either good or it's not. And I think the jurors, any juror, can see that.
And we're not talking about design narrowly defined as the aesthetics.
Right.
You know, if you look at the structure of the way AIA approaches design awards, you'll get led to the Framework for Design Excellence document, which is available on the national website. And it's got 10 or so parameters of elements that the Institute is advocating we consider when we approach design writ large. And so one of the things that we've done over the years is move our awards program to more closely align with national in the sense of considering the Framework for Design Excellence. Now, it's not just to help you understand the emphasis aspects that John's talking about, but it's also to give you a pathway to have your work recognized beyond the local component, beyond the state, beyond the region, and perhaps on the national level. So while we've made this transition over about 5 years, I think it's still not well understood why we've advocated for the use of the inclusion of the Framework for Design Excellence. So with that preamble, I always like to begin any consideration of a design submittal with why. Why are you wanting to submit? Why are you choosing this project? And what do you hope to gain through success in the design award? Because these things can't be taken lightly. You just can't, the day before they're due, go, oh yeah, let's submit that. It's about telling a story of what your project is doing to help your clients succeed, to help your firm succeed, and to help your community succeed. So it becomes then the story is the design submittal that you're going to design that tells that story.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's important to think of it as another design problem. And as with any successful design problem, you need to not leave it to the last minute. Leave plenty of time to put this together, just like you do with your architectural design problems. Leave time for iterations. Do it once, leave it aside, look at it, maybe get opinions from other people that you have some respect for, and then revise it and have another version and another version. Because just like with architecture, every time you redraw it or redo it, it gets better. And it'll be a better submission for doing it.
And you need to consider the submission as a project in itself.
Yeah.
You're going to design it, you need to staff it properly, and you have to allocate the necessary resources, time, materials to get it done right. The worst thing you can do is expend a lot of energy, time, and money making a submittal that's not credible and is not reflective of the work that you put into the project in the first place.
Yeah.
So source it properly. Don't just allocate it to the most junior member of your firm and say, oh, just whip this together. Take leadership of it and make sure you've got the right people on the task.
Yeah, and part of that is just being clear with the narrative.
Right.
What is the scope of the project and what did you do here? And of course, again, it's a design exercise. These jurors are looking at a lot of submittals. Even in Utah, they look at a lot of submittals. What did we have last year?
35.
25 plus or minus. So that's a lot. So, one page, single spaced text is not a good approach. How, again, it's a design problem. How do you, knowing that the jurors have a lot of these things to look at, how do you get the critical information across? I guess the other thing is talking about context for the project in there. What is it that you're doing? What is this really? What was the problem and what was the solution? Doing it in a clear way, clear, readable way. That's not, as I said, it doesn't include one page single space text. And what are the challenges and the issues? Because that one page of single space text is just, they're just not going to read it, right?
And again, it's going back to what John said about emphasis. If the key elements here is a process piece for environment for your client to do their work, then that needs to be first up front. Present that in such a way that it's clear the problem to be solved was how this company worked. Or if it's knitting together a neighborhood, understand the context of it, how it fits. If it's sustainability, give me some metrics about what sustainable aspects are included and how you're bettering just the average project. So the complete story needs to be told. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a submittal that in its introductory narrative talks about sustainability or traffic flows or all this stuff, and you never hear that topic again throughout the rest of the submittal. If you're going to be a sustainable project, what's the EUI for that project? Or how much water reduction have you used? Whatever it is, but back up your story with factual information and then illustrations or photographs that further back it up. The worst thing you can do is put a bunch of stuff in there that doesn't focus on the story that's being told.
Can I just add something real quick?
Certainly.
Sorry to jump in. So what I'm hearing you say is, if you're needing to provide some proof, especially for sustainability, then we're not submitting the project the year that it's, you gotta have some time to gather that information and actually be able to kind of run those calculations, put together that story and, you know, show that it's doing a certain thing. And, you know, if you're going in too early, then you can't provide that.
Well, it just confirms the story.
Right.
It's one thing to, in the submittal to say, it's designed to be an EUI of 18.
Right.
It's another thing, that's an easy task. Achieving 18 is a much different task. So, part of the upfront of why is because it's ready to be told. The story's ready to be told, so now I'm doing it. But that really comes into play because a lot of the stuff, we're optimists, right? We're architects. Our design intentions are always at a high level. How often do we achieve what we set out to do? Either in part or in whole. And that's what you're trying to celebrate as you put this submittal together.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, it's, you can go in with the information of UI for the model, or the energy model, but it's of course more convincing because you have 12 months of data that shows that you met that as needed, right? So it's just that, it's not that you can't do this, it's just a show it is. Yeah. Okay, do you want to circle back maybe and talk a little bit about the myths?
Sure, John.
How about, you want to start, I know you like to talk about the whole big firm, small firm myth.
Oh, yeah. So one of the first things out of the box always is, well, it's always the large firms that win. Because they've got marketing departments, they've got people dedicated full-time to putting these things together. The other side is, oh, no, the small firms always win. Because, you know, they've got those boutique, really high-value clients who let their designers just go wild. Both ends of that spectrum are wrong. It's about good design, as John started out us talking about, and it's about a story well told. And the whole entire package is focused on that story. Don't let things that are extraneous distract you from the main lines of your story.
Yeah, I think that's really true. You know, I think everybody's heard of Marlon Blackwell. He's been highly decorated, lots of awards. Started out in, well, he's still in rural Arkansas. And now he's doing things really all over the country. And last I heard, he was even doing embassies for the State Department. I don't know where that is now, but he was in the fall when I talked to him. So he was a very small firm when he started, and really it was just going back to what I said, is that he made the most out of every opportunity that he had. And he told, I saw him speak in November at the Fellows Awards, because he was the jury chair, and he told a story about his first national award that he won. And when they called him to tell him that he won this award, they said it was the lowest dollar amount of any award they ever given a award to. And it was really just about his point in telling the story, was making the most out of every opportunity. And this is, I guess, it's not just a message for small firms, it's a message for all firms that no matter what you're given, you need to make the most out of it, because you can make a lot out of it. So anyway, maybe I'm beating them to death. The other myth that I would like to talk about, or another one, is this whole idea of handicapping the jury. And I'm certainly guilty of doing this. And what I'm talking about is, the jury chair or the entire jury is announced, and you start thinking, oh, I know that person's work, or you Google it and look up that person's work and say, oh, they'll never choose our projects. We're nothing like them. And that is just absolutely not true. Because the good design really shines through, and it really carries you through, and the people that are invited to be on the jury can see that. Even if it's nothing like their work, they can still tell good design from bad, and will award it. So it's really not, it's not in your interest, and it's really just a waste of time to be trying to figure out how the jury will break, because they'll break towards good design. They just, they can see it. These are, you know, these jurors, are always very experienced people, that have been around, and they've seen a lot of good design, and they know what it is when they see it. And so, I wouldn't waste my time with any of that.
And they're also very adept at seeing through the bullshit. So
Yeah.
don't try and game them as well. The good stuff comes through always.
Yeah. And we talked about, photography a lot.
We did talk about photography a lot. So that's one of the other myths, is, you know, you have to, you know, get the big name photographers to shoot your stuff. Everybody carries a camera in their pocket these days, right? People are doing feature-length movies on iPhone 16s. So it's not about the quality of the imagery, if you will, but it's making sure that the photography is well composed, it's designed, just like the rest of your submittal, and making sure that you are putting in images and graphics that reinforce the story. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a jury where we look at these beautiful photographs that are part of a submittal and go, why is that photograph in there? It has nothing to do with what advancing the story. So, you know, be careful with your photography. Yes, we need good photography, but it's not just about a singular great image that could be displayed in the museum. It's how does it help advance the story? The other thing I'd say about the photography component as well is many members of the public, who is an ultimate audience as far as we at AIA are concerned for award juries, don't understand that our awards programs are nothing more than pretty picture contests. This goes back to the storytelling component here. Great photography is important, but it's not the only thing that's going to get you over the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really good point, that the cameras that we all have in our phones are very good, but that's not a license to just use snapshots, just quick pics, you know, walk up to a building and just take a photo and move on. As RK said, it still has to be a great photo, but you can do it yourself, because we have the technology.
Yeah, it's all about composing it, making sure the lighting's working, all of that kind of stuff. And one of the other great debates over the decades has been people are no people.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want people in your photo or no people? And there are some people it's like, no, it's just the building. I, for one, like to see it in use. I'd like to see people inhabiting the building that help usually confirm or deny some of the assertions that are made in the narrative. Right? Where are you at? Do people or no people, John?
Actually, we break both ways. Some depends on the project.
Good point.
Could be some, yeah, we have plenty of good people. Yeah, and then of course, you know, with things like schools, it's really tricky.
Yeah, because you've got other restrictions.
Yeah.
Then you do the motion
Yeah.
shot where you got to run through the shot.
Yeah. So. Okay, yeah, I think that's about it. I had something here about quotas.
Oh, yeah. So, one of the other myths is, well, there's a quota on how many awards you can give. I would just say that is patently untrue everywhere I've ever been. Every jury I've been on, if there was a suggestion that, you know, we'd like to give an award in every category or whatever, every jury I've ever been on has been, juries, we don't care. We're here to honor good design, regardless of how many awards it means, or doesn't. I've never been on a jury that has made an award just to fill a number, just to fill a spot. If the work's not there, you're not gonna recognize.
And the opposite too, right? We're not, they never, say that. We're up to some limit, we're not gonna give this project an award because we're over, it's just, it is what it is. And I think that's another important thing to talk about, is that, you know, we talk about the, you know, the framework for design, and we do, and I think all juries get instructions of kind of what to do and how we want these things to move. But in the end, it's a very subjective thing. It's never objective. And in the end, it's up to the jury chair. I mean, we give them direction. And I guess there are some things that are non-negotiable, guardrails, but it's pretty much up to the jury chair what to do.
Well, yeah, and the jury members too.
Yeah,
Cause I've been on some juries where there have been some very forceful members, pushing one idea or another. And, the jury chair and the other members, because generally speaking, the people on the juries are not shy. They'll call people out on their individual biases. The jury process is something we should have, John, which is always exciting.
jury process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mean just, I mean, these things are often done online.
Right, but, you know, any jury that, awards party that is not anonymous, I would be suspicious of first off.
Oh,
They're always anonymous, so you get a stack, quote unquote stack. Could be a series of, PDFs, to look at. And you flip through them very quickly. And the first cut is yes, no, maybe, right? Go through and you're just like, oh, this one just isn't there from a design perspective. The narrative's incomplete. For a variety of reasons, it may be, no, I can't support this one. Then you're gonna have the maybe category. It's got some good things. I need to look at it a little deeper, and some that'll just pop to the top right away.
And yeah, that's really good. And everyone should keep in mind that every juror is doing that independently.
Right.
And then typically come together and see where the overlap is. And because if everyone, whether it's 3 or 5 jurors, has this project as a yes, well, that becomes pretty easy then. And if same thing with the no's, if everyone has these as no's, that limits it. And then you spend your time talking about the maybes. And that's where.
And the yeses as well, because, once you kind of get into past that initial cut, you're starting to give some thought to, is it an honor award or a merit?
Mm.
And so you're looking at them in terms of, with your yes and your maybe pile, you're gonna have some that may cross between merit and honor. You may have something that, really succeeds in addressing a contextual issue for that site. And so in that case, that may be its issue, is its site plan and the way it fits in the neighborhood. But there's other stuff that doesn't quite fit. So yeah, maybe that's more of a merit than an honor. Right? And so you're looking at balancing, the full cut of a great design versus something that succeeds in one aspect. And some design work programs recognize specific detailing expertise as well. So you also have to understand the categories that the program's operating under and see, if you really want to emphasize a particular aspect that hits one of the categories that we're working.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're talking about the yeses.
Yeah.
It's true. And what else about the process? I mean, that's the heart of it. How this works.
Well, yeah, but each jury is very idiosyncratic. They'll be all over the place, actually.
Yeah.
Some of them come together very quickly. Some of them can be very contentious in the way they go through the review process. I've always learned something every time I've served on it.
And I think exactly for that reason is why we encourage people that if you don't win, you should resubmit. If you believe it's a good project, because it's so subjective and so, so, I mean, it depends on the jurors, those personalities. That's completely different the next year. So, that's why we encourage everybody to resubmit. You don't win if you're really thinking it. If you have a good project and if you do resubmit, I know the temptation is just to take what you submitted last year and resubmit it. But maybe take another look at it. You know, it goes back to that idea that the more times you review and revise, the better it gets. So you might, set it aside. If you don't win this year, you set it aside even for a couple of months and then come back to it. And something might stick out. It certainly happened to us.
And that could also yield additional data, as Daniel was asking about, in terms of performance. The trees grow in. Sometimes you get these submittals that, they haven't even finished the landscaping yet. And it's like, yeah, maybe wait a year, it could be better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So John, we got a question up here for you. As a small firm, how much time and money do you budget to develop a good submittal?
Oh, boy. I hope you're not expecting $1 amount, because
No, I don't know the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, this actually, that's a great question, because it goes back to, what I said initially in that, do you put an emphasis on design? And this is it, where you're not saying, you're not giving it $1 amount. We're gonna make this a great submittal. Almost, I mean, everybody has a budget, but even with no budget, we're gonna do whatever it takes to really show what this project is. And I'm not even gonna think about cost. Of course, eventually everyone's gonna think about cost. And that is kind of what we do. We don't sign a budget. We just don't do that for this. If we think we have a project that's noteworthy, that's good, that we put a lot of time into, and it came out really well, then we'll put whatever it takes. Again, everybody has a limit. We're not gonna fly in Elon Bond from wherever he is, but we'll fly somebody from the West Coast that if they are, if they've proven to us that they really are worth it.
Photographer.
Yeah, photographer. And that's just kind of a judgment call, but this photography can be really steep. And so that's a judgment call. Do you think it's worth it? And get the value of it. Is that photographer's work really better than somebody that's, kind of in Denver or local? So that, and then, we think that we always put the time in and treat it as a design problem. So it's not last minute. So there are hours.
But the other thing to consider as you're doing this is the submittal doesn't need to be a standalone throwaway piece, right? The parts that you put together for that submittal can then become part of your marketing program and your portfolio. What you use on your website, what you may use in a mailer or a future presentation when you're pitching a project to a new client. It becomes all of that. So most firms tend to incorporate the design submittal process as part of their marketing budget. And so you look at where it goes, and it's going to slide year to year. Because one year you may have 3 or 4 great projects to submit, and some years you may only have none, or just one. The other thing to think about too is, while we're going to obviously be promoting the AIA awards programs, there's a lot of other awards programs that you can enter. The masonry awards, the concrete awards, carpeting, furniture, and there's also things like the business news and other real estate organizations or industry sectors that will have design awards. And once you put together the basic package, you have the opportunity to then customize it, tweak it a little bit to make a submittal under one of those other rubrics, right? So there's a lot of different ways to play the game with submittals.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of these things. Let's just go through the list. You know, the first one was, I think we talked about this, think like a juror, you know. As we said, they get 25 of these at least, if not more. So how are you going to get your story out quickly? You know, that whole image of, oh, you want to hook them, or get them interested, get someone interested. You have to think like a writer.
And the easier it is to understand, the more likely you're gonna get through that first hoop of yes, no, maybe. Just, you know, make the juror's job as easy as you can.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, you know, architects have a reputation of not always being great writers, but you have to think of this in that way, and that, you know, it's almost if you ever took a journalism class, it's that really brief format that you have to really engage.
And now with AI and chat GTP and things like that, you can use those AI platforms to take what you've drafted and make it better. You can ask with your query to improve it rather than write it from scratch. But I also am aware of some firms that have started to use AIA models that they've trained on their submittal process, on their marketing materials, so that when they go to the AI model, it's based on what they have developed in-house rather than just going to the web. So there's a whole other aspect to how you put these things together that AI is starting to get its tentacles into.
Yeah. Another one is just write less. We talked about this, be more visual with your presentation. Because it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's strong beginning of catching somebody's eye. It has to live through 25 of these things. Leave yourself plenty of time. We talked about this. Don't leave it to the last minute. I mean, it's almost like if you've left it to the last minute, then maybe you should punt.
Save it for next year.
Yeah, because and believe me, I know how that goes. You know, then all of a sudden you think you have a year. You don't think about it, and then all of a sudden it's last minute again. Obviously, that's something that you have to struggle against. We talked about getting a peer review from a trusted colleague. And this goes back a little bit to the framework in that you need to pay attention and address all the board's criteria and requirements. And I think, you know, with the framework, it's pretty involved. And we don't expect that, and you tell me if I've got this wrong, that we don't expect every single one to be a home run, but we expect that you address the ones that are relevant to the project.
Right. I mean, every just like any criteria, you're never going to hit 100% of them every time. But look at the ones that have really been part and parcel to your process of doing the project from start to finish, and look at how your approach and your results fit into some of the categories discussed in the framework, and then drill down on it. Really tell us the story. And one of the other things that I love to see in a board submittal is some of your process of how you've gotten there. There's a lot of submittals that you'll see, it'll just be slick as hell drawings and renderings and the images. Show me that initial sketch. Show me, you know, some bubble diagrams of how you got to where it was. Give me some sense that, you know, what your thought process was to get to this end result. And the framework will help you do that too. But don't be afraid to show some of the messiness, if you will, of the process, because it illustrates your spirit and what you brought to the project. But, you know, generally speaking, there's going to be more than one architect on the jury. And they're gonna be interested to know how you got there as well. And so again, part of the story.
Yeah, that's right. And all of these architects on the jury, they know that this project didn't drop out of the sky fully formed, right?
By one person.
It was, yeah, that's right, by one person.
Recognize your team,
Yeah,
especially contributors like your structural engineer or, you know, your mechanical, somebody, if there was somebody that, you know, a member of the team that sparks a particular aspect of it, recognize it. It helps
Yeah.
humanize the work.
yeah, that's another thing that we wanted to touch on here, is that we've heard that there are teams that go back when they're putting together the award submission, they interview project team members. Because there are always, you know, really great stories that come up that you forget about. And going back, because it's usually, you know, the design is a ways in the distance. So we talking to the team members, even if it's a very small team, about the, you know, facts, processes, outcomes, challenges, just stories that came out of the process that you may have forgotten about in the meantime. That was something that I heard somewhere, and it really was, I thought. It was,
And it also, just as you had a team to put the project together, other members of your team may want to submit the project as part of their industry's awards programs. You can collaborate with them there and share some of the costs and the burden of putting it together, and probably get a richer story out of it as well.
yeah, yeah. And including, you mentioned including subs, but including the internal team as well.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a larger office. One of the other things we need to touch on is just the AI levels, the levels of the awards. You want to talk about the regional?
Well, sure, so pretty much every local component will have a program. And then state level has programs. Since we dissolved the regional structure several years ago, the regional awards nationally have diminished a little bit. But here in the Western Mountain, what used to be the Western Mountain region, as we were looking at the dissolving of the region, one of the things that pretty much everybody from every state really appreciated was the regional conference and the regional awards programs. And so we've kind of come together as a loose alliance, if you will, to try and keep those things alive, because the regional awards help you hone the submittal and may set it up to go for a national award. So as a result, old Western Mountain region states, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming, decided we'll keep that together. And we invited Idaho and Montana to join with us in the newly branded WMR Alliance, if you will, because I have no idea why Idaho and Montana were in the same region as Hawaii and Guam, but that aside. So now we've got, what is it, 7 states, 8 states? And the fellows in the states have kind of taken up the shepherding of that program. So now we have a continuation of the Western Mountain Regional Award. And this year, the submittals are due already, I think, they're pretty close. They're pretty close, yeah. But we're gonna be joining AI Idaho in Boise for their state conference with our conference. And the awards jury is gonna be pretty great. Stephen Kieran from Kieran and Timberlake, Francis Halsbad, former Chancellor of the College Fellows from New York City, and Ann Schaff, fellow with Sheila McCain in Seattle are going to be the jurors. So that's going to be a great event in Boise in October, I think.
Yeah, I went last year in Colorado. It was great. It was a really good thing.
And Roger Jackson, FAIA of FFKR, is our state rep and participating with the organizers for that awards program.
Yeah, last year was the first year that the fellows did that, and they admittedly said they didn't do such a great job of getting the word out. So look for that, an improvement for this year and subsequent years, but that's something to be aware of as well. Regional boards. I'm looking through my list here, and I think we've kind of covered everything.
Cool. So any other questions out there? All of your questions have been answered. So Mr. Herman, what did we miss?
Yeah, come on, Bob, I know you got one.
No, you did a great job today. Thank you for your insights. I don't know that you've missed anything, so.
We get to do this next year, Bob.
What? Okay.
We've already scheduled you,
Okay.
so.
Wow, well, gosh, thanks so much to both of you, that was really insightful, and I hope it's encouraging for those who listened in to, start submitting.
And again, if you got any other questions, feel free to reach out to John and I would be happy to share what little we know.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we can mention real quick, submissions for awards this year are due at the end of July.
For AI Utah.
AI Utah,
Or do you win?
end of July.
End of July, okay.
AI.org, go to the awards page, it's right there at the top. Find all the attorney.
And then we'll be announcing the winners at our conference in September.
Yep, September 25th.
Yeah,
Thanks for the insights, gentlemen.
Our pleasure.
And when we should